Hey there, fellow gamers. Remember when Cyberpunk 2077 was all anyone could talk about? Man, the hype around that game was something else. It's crazy to think about now, but there was a time when it seemed like CD Projekt Red could do no wrong. Have you ever felt let down by a game that seemed perfect in its trailers? What if I told you that Cyberpunk 2077 is a prime example of hype gone wrong? I don't know about you, but I got caught up in all the excitement too. Those trailers looked insane, right? The neon-soaked streets of Night City, the promise of a living, breathing metropolis where every choice mattered. It was like a dream come true for sci-fi fans and RPG enthusiasts alike. But we all know how that turned out. It's wild to think that the roots of Cyberpunk go all the way back to 1988. That's when Mike Pondsmith first created the tabletop RPG that would eventually inspire the video game. Fast forward to 2012, and CD Projekt Red drops the bomb that they're working on a Cyberpunk game. From that moment on, the hype train left the station and just kept picking up speed. You know how it goes. A teaser here, a gameplay demo there, each one more mind-blowing than the last. The marketing folks at CD Projekt Red knew exactly what they were doing. They fed us just enough to keep us hungry for more. And boy, did we eat it up. Every new trailer or screenshot felt like a glimpse into gaming nirvana. We were all imagining the endless possibilities, the stories we'd create, the characters we'd meet. But here's the thing about hype. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gets people excited and builds anticipation. On the other hand, it can set expectations so high that nothing short of perfection will do. And let's be real, no game is perfect, right? The problem is, we gamers can sometimes get a little carried away. We see a cool feature in a trailer, and suddenly we're imagining entire gameplay systems built around it. We hear a developer mention an idea in passing, and in our minds, it becomes a core part of the game. Before you know it, we've built up this image of the perfect game in our heads, and anything less than that feels like a letdown. That's exactly what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. The more we saw, the more we wanted. We were promised this incredibly dense city with NPCs that had their own lives and routines. We were told our choices would have far-reaching consequences. The combat looked slick. The story seemed deep and branching. It all sounded too good to be true. And, well, you know what they say about things that sound too good to be true. December 10th, 2020. That was the day the bubble burst for a lot of people. Cyberpunk 2077 finally hit shelves and, oof, it was rough. Now, don't get me wrong, there was still a lot to like about the game. The story had its moments. Some of the characters were great, and when it worked, Night City could be a pretty amazing place to explore. But for many players, especially those on older consoles, it was a mess. Bugs, glitches, crashes, you name it, Cyberpunk had it. Features that we thought were going to be revolutionary turned out to be pretty basic. The AI, which was supposed to be this groundbreaking system, often felt more like window dressing. And don't even get me started on how it ran on PS4 and Xbox One. It was like night and day compared to those slick demos we'd been shown. The backlash was intense. Social media exploded with complaints, memes, and videos showcasing all the ways the game fell short of expectations. People who had been hyping the game for years suddenly felt betrayed. It wasn't just disappointment. For many, it felt like they'd been lied to. And you know what? In some ways, they had a point. When you compare the final product to what was shown in those early trailers and demos, it's hard not to feel a bit misled. Features that were prominently displayed or discussed ended up being watered down or missing entirely. The game that was released just didn't live up to the game we'd been promised. CD Projekt Red, to their credit, didn't try to hide from the criticism. They acknowledged the issues and promised to fix them. But the damage was done. A studio that had built its reputation on quality and player trust suddenly found itself in the doghouse. It was a stark reminder of how quickly things can change in this industry. The whole Cyberpunk 2077 saga really got me thinking about the role of marketing in games. On one hand, I get it. Companies need to build hype to sell their products. But where's the line between generating excitement and misleading your audience? It's a tricky balance, and Cyberpunk 2077 is a prime example of what happens when that balance tips too far in one direction. I think there's a lesson here for both developers and gamers. For developers, it's about being more transparent and realistic in their marketing. The trap Horizon Zero Dawn avoided was showing the trailer and actually playing the game. They showed actual gameplay, with Aloy sneaking around, setting traps, and taking down that massive robotic creature with skill and strategy. It felt real, like something you could actually do in the game. That's what sets a new standard for the industry. Honesty and transparency about the game you are putting out, which proves authenticity in not just a possibility, but a necessity. And Guerrilla Games showed how it isn't just about selling a dream, it's about delivering one. Well, as if you're going to emotionally connect with your audience, the soundtrack better be good. And Horizon Zero Dawn gets this. Simply a visual treat. It had audio that made you feel something. This was perfectly balanced between tribal beats and futuristic vibes, mirroring the theme of old-world humanity versus futuristic technology played out in the entire game. It wasn't there to sound epic, it was there to draw you in emotionally. You could almost feel the weight of Aloy's journey, even know his story yet. Compare that to some game trailers out there that have music that is just plain noise to get you pumped up, and it does pretty much nothing to resonate with you personally. That's definitely not something that would be said about Horizon Zero Dawn's music, as it set the tone for the entire experience, and did so in a way that really resonated with people on a deeper level. At the end of the day, the Cyberpunk 2077 launch is going to go down as one of the most notorious in gaming history. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of overhype and the importance of managing expectations. But it's also a reminder of how passionate gamers can be. We invest so much of ourselves in these virtual worlds, and when they don't live up to our expectations, it really stings. I think it starts with being more critical consumers. It's okay to get hyped about a game, but let's try to keep our feet on the ground. Let's ask more questions, demand more transparency from developers, and be willing to accept that not every game is going to revolutionize the industry. For developers and publishers, the lesson is clear. Honesty is the best policy. Be upfront about what your game is and isn't. Show us the real deal, not just the polished demo builds. Build trust with your audience, because once that trust is broken, it's hard to get back. So what do you think? Did Cyberpunk 2077 let you down? Or did you find something to love in Night City despite its flaws? How do you feel about the way games are marketed these days? And what can we all do to create a healthier, more realistic hype culture in gaming? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on all this. Remember, no matter how hyped or disappointed we get, we're all here because we love games. Let's try to keep that love at the forefront, even when things don't turn out quite how we hoped. Here's to better games, better marketing, and a better gaming community for all of us. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Game on, friends!